Welcome, audience. In the audience, I want to say at the moment we have the guest we're going to be talking with now is Ronald Thomas. He's one of the producers here. He's got a program that's really very good, and it's called A Big Talk. And he's, in a sense, filling in. We say we were supposed to be doing a program. We had it scheduled with Beth Lamont to talk about Corliss Lamont and civil rights. She hadn't been able to come, and so Ronald's agreed to step in. And if she comes, she'll come and join us. But Ronald, welcome very, very much.
Glad to be here, Harold.
In this holiday season.
This is wonderful.
Yeah. Now, we've been talking over the years and everything, but share your own background, if you would.
Born and raised in Harlem on the Columbia University campus. Mm-hmm. Born in White Harlem, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And went to PS 28 and Edward W. Stitt Junior High School.
All the best schools, huh?
I don't know about how good they are.
No, I was making a joke because we started early. You said they were some of the bad schools, but anyway, yeah.
With the John F. Kennedy High School, which they currently want to obliterate.
Uh-huh. We can talk about that later in the program, yeah.
On an academic level. They want to keep the building, though.
Yeah, okay.
And it wasn't that bad of a school, but after I left, it went totally downhill.
Really? Okay. Yeah, okay. We can talk about that, yeah.
And
what about the? We asked you. You liked school, or you tend to like learning. And what about the family setting? Was it one that encouraged learning and that kind of stuff, and so forth, that meshed with school, or what?
Yeah, it was kind of a mixed bag.
Okay, right, yeah.
A lot of music in the house.
Right.
A lot of books around for me to read.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
My father was kind of. He was very frustrated with his life.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of good people have been and are frustrated.
He came out of the Depression, so
terrible hard.
When I was born, it was an economic boom, so he kind of resented that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't calm him down. I was too young.
Yeah, and you were a little bit upset. You mentioned earlier when we were talking about Martin King was assassinated. It was terrible. You were young. You would have been 10 or so, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting in the living room when John F. Kennedy got shot. I was like, whoa, that was big.
That was horrible.
That was really big.
It was a terrible time then.
Yeah, my mother was watching a soap opera and Walter Cronkite just busted in and said, oh.
You remember that?
Yeah, I was one of those.
You would have been very young.
Seminal memory. Yeah, about 5 years old.
Yeah, right. It's hard to remember. I don't know how far back we can remember things. I can't remember things back. You know, when you're really young, like 2 or 3.
Well, I remember it because I saw Kennedy in Harlem. He spoke. They had big rallies in those days.
Yeah.
I saw Fidel Castro.
Right, yeah.
I saw Martin Luther King. I saw John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert.
Yeah, right.
Martin Luther King. I saw all those guys in person.
Yeah.
And
Adam Clayton Powell.
Philip Randolph.
Yeah. Malcolm, you ever get a chance to catch Malcolm?
I saw them all like in one
period.
No, one night.
One night. They were all where? Somewhere.
125th Street at the Hotel Teresa.
That's where I associate, we did Teresa with
I saw him out there, and I saw all the signs, I am a man.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know what it was all about, but it was pretty, pretty strange, even though I was only 5 years old.
I dig it. Yeah, you can dig it. Also, it was the civil rights thing was yet to be dealt with or anything. You know, it was all being pushing and making a big change and a lot of resentment, and it was a lot of tension over that issue.
And a lot of people didn't like Martin Luther King. A lot of people didn't know what he was up to. And then when Kennedy got blown away, everybody was in shock.
That was beyond belief.
Everybody was in total shock.
Yeah, right.
They thought the Russians did it. They didn't know who
people
did it.
Still have conspiracy theories around that and everything. There was a lot of tension in the air then. Like, I think there's a lot of tension in the air now.
Jackie Kennedy says Johnson had something to do with it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He certainly benefited from it. Yeah.
And what's the name? Stone made that movie, said it was Johnson. You know, they got conspiracy theories come around about all kinds of things. 9/11 Truth, there's a lot of conspiracy theories around that.
That shaped me.
Yeah.
And going to school, they didn't like me talking like that.
They didn't want you. Oh, that's interesting to me. They didn't want that kind of talk there because they just said, well, it's another event in the rolling of history.
And then when Nixon got in all his trouble, it was
the Watergate. And
I used to talk about that. They didn't want me talking like that.
So you were you were kind of politically aware.
Yeah.
And interested in things political and social and beyond just your immediate situation.
Yeah, they didn't want me talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You were on the smart end of the IQ curve.
Yeah, I used to listen to BAI.
Yeah. BAI is still around. Yeah. There was that, and you were encouraged in that. And then did you got out of? Did you get to the high school, or did you?
Yeah,
go?
I wound up at City College.
City College.
Yeah.
That's right. I think you knew Josh when he was up there.
Like they call it the Harvard of public schools.
No, it was a great school. No tuition. It was a wonderful thing.
And I got there. They didn't want me talking like that either.
You were talking politically. Yeah, but I think you would have been in better company there because there were a lot of radical people.
Actually, it was worse.
Worse.
It was worse.
Really? Why? Than it was in the lower grades of school?
Yeah, it's actually worse.
Why? Why do you think that was? Or spell it out.
A lot of enormous pressure to conform.
Really? You think so? Even at that college, that was an important college.
Yeah,
and there were a lot of people of great note, radical thinking people.
Well, scientifically, it was a Nobel Prize producing college.
Yeah, yeah.
Intellectually, it was great.
Yeah.
But
well, those are two biggies in a way.
They were into a lot of mind control tactics.
They were.
Yeah.
You sure you wasn't your paranoia?
Oh, no. You can't talk about things.
Do you think it's characteristic of the educational system writ large in the city, in the state, in the nation?
I think it's getting worse as time goes on. It's worse.
Okay, education.
Yeah, because you don't have there's no room for free thought.
You don't think so? They talk a lot about it, right? Freedom, and they give tenure to professors so they can be free to say whatever they want, that kind of thing.
Well,
it's a nod of the hat.
They're not really free, though. I mean, in the Black Studies department, and all the black professors, they would walk around and look behind them, see if anybody was following. I was like, nobody's following.
I don't understand what you just said. I mean, the Black Studies.
There's a Black Studies department.
Yeah,
and the basketball coach was black.
Yeah, but
they didn't feel a lot of job security. They felt that they could be eliminated.
They probably had to fight to establish those things. Like the women liberation people, the women, they had to do things to fight to get women's studies included in the curriculum.
They did have some very nice teachers there that I probably should have
paid better attention to.
I should have had a better relationship with those teachers.
Why do you think you didn't? Were you angry? Do you think anger would have been characteristic of your mindset?
I thought the school should. Well, they said they want to have free thought, but it wasn't really. It wasn't really the case, though.
That's really interesting to me. What would free thought bode for those who were not wanting to have it, and why would they not want to have free thought within an institution of higher learning?
Politically, they didn't have the honesty that I was looking for.
They didn't have the honesty.
Yeah, they wouldn't say why governments were destabilized, why Africa was in such
turmoil,
a colonial turmoil, even though they were supposed to be free countries.
Yeah.
Why their natural resources were being stripped, and why the people are starving.
Right.
Why the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank usurped their natural resources and their public infrastructure if they had it, if they had an infrastructure. And it didn't really answer a lot of the questions that were in my mind.
Your mind about why so much injustice in a general pattern kind of way?
Social justice question.
Social, political, and economic injustice was characteristic of the system, and it would seem to be accepted by people.
Why would Martin Luther King be murdered? I mean, they had nothing. They had no answers for that.
Hatred of people who were upset with the activity towards civil rights.
Why would Malcolm X be murdered in that actual neighborhood of that the school was in, not too far from the campus?
Yeah, well, that was the time, you're talking the 60s with King and that. We still had to face, it wasn't just with Johnson. I mean, civil rights was such a big issue.
Yeah.
And we had this Jim Crow stuff and all this stuff. We had chattel slavery, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, how can we account for, my favorite line, people who watch this program will be sick of hearing me say it, but it's James Joyce had a character say, history is a nightmare. And I think one could say, at least in parentheses, of injustice from which we're attempting to awaken. I think it was the case then when he wrote in Ulysses and The Wake and so forth. And I think it has been the case at the time of Martin King and Malcolm and all of that. And also I think it's still the case. And so the questions are still there. In my mind, why do we have a system that is so unjust for all but a relatively few who run all of the political entities around the world, including the international order? The question still resonates,
yeah,
does
my
it not?
mind is full of questions,
Yeah.
For which they had no answers. Progressive whites like John Lindsay, they were crucified. I wonder why, there was no narrative for what was going on with that.
Yeah, or no explanation of why.
Yeah.
Or much less a pattern.
Yeah.
Another hero of mine, if I may, is Bucky Fuller. I don't know if you got into him.
Mr. Fuller, yeah.
Best mind in the history of the universe, I believe, bar none. But he used to say it's interesting that Spaceship Earth is all one system. We're all one system. We break it up for convenience of manipulation and so forth. But he said it wasn't delivered to us with an operating manual. Like if you got a computer out of the box, you got an operating manual that explains the ground rules, explains the context, explains why things go in a certain way to give you an idea. We didn't have one in terms of how to operate Spaceship Earth. And we need that, and we still don't have one that's adequate to what the future requires. At least that's my strong sense as we sit and talk on December 23rd. Well, the Christian era, 2010.
A lot of other peoples of the earth, they have a pretty good idea of how to operate.
Who has an idea? Where do we go to?
All the indigenous peoples of the Amazon.
You feel that?
Yeah, the indigenous peoples of North America.
You think that?
Yeah, when other people got here, everything was pristine and beautiful. And
would it be true to say that you think that civilization is a blight on the planet? The process.
Well, certain civilizations, not all civilizations.
Oh, okay.
Certain civilizations actually are very friendly to the planet.
Oh,
the Iroquois Confederacy, they took very good care of the land.
I think Benjamin Franklin and others learned a great deal from that Confederacy in terms of some democratization of things. I think they were more democratically inclined.
They were very great stewards of the land. Animal life and plant life thrived under them.
You know, if you think back, if you can, I just had my DNA done. You know, who's the guy head of black studies at Harvard? Loomis or what's the guy?
Henry Louis Gates.
Yeah, Henry Louis Gates. He's put a lot of stuff onto the DNA. Have you seen that? Where they do DNA tests. And I just had mine done. You know?
I'm related to a lot of white people I know. Yeah.
I beg your pardon?
I'm related to a lot of white people I know. Yeah.
Have you done DNA on you?
I haven't done it, but
yeah, I'd recommend it. It used to be a little bit expensive, right? It was $300-400 to get it done, but now it's down. National Geographic's running a massive thing. It's down to about $100 now, and you can just send for it. And it's also in support of a person named Spencer Wells. I don't know if you're familiar.
I'm not familiar with Spencer Wells.
Spencer Wells is a very interesting, he's a geneticist, but he's also anthropology. Young fellow, in his prime, really good. And he had done a program that they put on television called The Journey of Man.
Yeah.
And it shows, it seems to me, with great scientific certainty, as much as you can get within an uncertain universe and certain uncertainty principles and everything, but that we're all one species, and we all are out of Africa. The Homo sapiens species almost certainly evolved and came to be in the continent of Africa. And it's all, we're all descended of that. And that was about 200,000 years ago that the Homo sapiens species appeared. Then there was migration outward from that homeland of us all. And then, so that's about 10,000 generations. And they can trace, in the case of us, we're male, they can trace on the Y chromosome.
Yeah.
They can trace what they call markers. And they can know the markers of your ancestry, individualized ancestry.
I'd love to know that.
Yeah. And you do it. You send it. It's about $100, and it's supporting Spencer Wells' work. They're trying to get. It's National Geographic, a major institution, and they're trying to get a DNA-based scientific understanding of the development of humanity, and then its dissemination. So they can get
how deep did they go in your ancestry?
Well, in my case, they did. I just got the results back. It took a little while, but it goes back about 70,000 years. It begins in Ethiopia. And
you're Ethiopian?
Yeah, Ethiopia. Well, it's all Africa.
You're a light-skinned Ethiopian.
Well, that light skin is just basic stuff that came after, but it's all from you know, 200,000 years is the beginning of our species.
On the African side, yeah.
Well, it's all we're all African.
Yeah.
Everybody is from Africa. I believe some people are still trying to say there was Florence's man or something, but the scientific understanding is that we're all Africans, and that's where humanity. That's where, and then they migrated outward. I had an early migration of Aboriginal people to Australia, went through India along the seaside, and they can trace it. And they can trace it by markers on the DNA. It's amazing what science can do.
So your ancestors took a long walk to...
That's right. They all did. We all did. And then there was a group...
Some people went certain places and other people went other places.
Exactly right. And they came, but it's all from Africa. And that long period is 200,000 years, a long time, and probably we can't know well pre-civilization. We didn't have civilization until we had agriculture in order to get security from the food quest. And we were wandering and gathering. We were almost certainly nested in nature, much as the creatures are. A crocodile or any other creature is nested and ecologically in touch with nature. But we came along up the home, we had Australopithecine 4 million years ago, and then there was Homo habilis, and then we're descendant of that. There was an offshoot, Homo erectus, and there's offshoots of that. But then it came to be one species came to dominate, and that's our species, Homo sapiens.
Homo sapien, yeah.
And it's 10,000, again, it's good. That's to begin to get a piece of understanding to get toward your understanding of the operating manual for spaceship Earth within a context where we got beginnings.
And we can, very good at science.
Yeah. And we can place that within the universe. And the physics of understanding the universe. In our lifetime, this is the most exciting time ever in the history of mankind.
It's almost also the most crazy time, too.
Well, it is very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and it's also characteristic of the evolutionary process itself.
Yeah.
Something like 99.9% of all species that have ever existed in the biological evolutionary process that began about 3.8 billion years ago out of a material reality where the constituents of organic process. What?
This isn't the voice of the shadow, but Beth is here. Beth
okay,
Lamont.
well, let her...
So when she comes...
Okay, Beth is coming to join us. That's good. We had announced that she was going to come. She came late. So we're just going to keep the tape rolling, and Beth is going to come and sit in the chair. Bring her in, and that's Beth Lamont. It's good that she can join us. And we got off on this track that we were talking with Ronald here, but bring her in and we'll sit her down and we'll welcome her. We'll join in the conversation. Anyway, that's interesting. We have that, so you can get these markers, and you ought to think about doing it. And general society.
I want to do it. I'm waiting until it goes down to about $10.
Well, okay, they probably will because everything's going. Come on in, Beth. Come on in, darling. Just come in, sit down, mic her up.
She made it.
And we're just going to have to go because we had to start because we got a schedule. So hand me your packages. Ladies and gentlemen, we announced at the beginning that Beth was going to come and join us, and she is now. Josh, come and put a mic on her and everything, and we will say to the audience.
Hello, Beth. How are you?
This
I'm
is.
hearing this good
I know.
conversation.
Yes, and this is
that.
Beth Lamont. Get a mic here. It's here, Josh. She's already got it connected, and so welcome, Beth. Let him mark you up. We were just talking about evolution and
That's
DNA and all.
exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, we will. We got to get your mic, darling. We got to get your mic, and in the audience, just find the mic.
We were wondering where you were.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry you were late. We had to start, but just put it on there. And this is. I will introduce her as we're talking. This is Beth Lamont. Beth Lamont is a very, very dear friend of mine and of the world, and she's the widow of the wonderful civil rights leader, Corliss Lamont, who people in the audience will remember as being perhaps the very first person that in a serious way stood up to McCarthy and went and brought him into court and began the process by which we got out of our swoon to fear and so forth that Mr. McCarthy introduced, which might be good because we're in a situation where that exists now.
Right back
Okay.
again. Honey,
now make sure her levels are okay. We'll get it to you.
You were talking about evolution?
Yeah.
I've got something funny.
Okay.
You'll
Okay,
enjoy
Beth.
about evolution.
Welcome. Beth is our guest now.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah.
The pink
The pink
folder right
book.
there.
Okay, the pink
folder.
thing. Okay.
I brought stuff for show and tell.
I know.
This is a funny about evolution. You'll get a kick out of it.
Okay.
And it's a little rowdy.
Okay.
Is that
rowdy.
all right?
Rowdy is fine. Here,
Little
this is
rowdy
Big
is
Talk
all right.
himself. He gets rowdy.
Okay.
He's been known to get rowdy.
All right, this is evolution with a question mark.
Okay.
Mother Earth was in a quandary. She was overwhelmed with laundry because this up-and-coming species was so careless with its feces.
Uh-huh.
This will never do, she reasoned. Fouling their nests in every season, descent from the trees to stand erect shows progress. However, I suspect that evolutionary strides portend they create tribes and not offend. This stymies the course of evolution. What can I try for a solution? Mother Nature winked her eye and said, "A sphincter I will try." It seems the utmost of civility is controlling when to poop or pee.
Yeah.
She was wise to make this find, because we then developed humankind. The good, the bad, all tell the story. We rose to heights of awesome glory. Silken robes and royalty, triumphal galas, pageantry, brilliant minds, creative powers. Little time to smell the flowers. We're still offensive to our neighbors with the rattling of sabers, family, tribe, and every grouping, pounding chest, symbolic pooping.
Yeah.
Wielding power became the flaw, the bomb of fearsome shock and awe. Starvation, war, and climate change, or new weather patterns creating danger. Use up the earth and all its life, waste and greed and fear and strife, millions crying war is wrong. Can't we all just get along? Mother Earth, though the sphincter move was brilliant, Mother knew not one centillion of so-called progress this allowed. Humans became too powerful and proud. Poor Mother Earth now realizes that her attempts to civilize us, though well-intended, were all for naught. She's screaming now, "What have I wrought?" Alas, we humans failed the test. Mother Earth did not know best. Though she gave the gift of birth, we've near destroyed our playpen, Earth. She says, "Goodness knows I tried my best, but these faulty beings still foul their nest." The sphincter helped our evolution, but now's the time for a revolution. Concern for Earth and human lives is the only way that we'll survive, but not much time for problem solving. There may be hope. We're still evolving.
All right, whose is that? Who is that?
That's mine.
One, well done. That's very good.
You worked very hard on that.
You thought, yeah, that's poetry. It comes out of
Yeah,
this kind of thing.
well,
That's really good. It says
just-
a lot about where we are now.
And
Yeah.
that's just what you're talking
Well,
about.
we were
you know.
talking about it, and
I
we got
know.
off on DNA, and he wants to get the DNA testing down to $10. I think it'd be good to
It
get it
should
down.
be.
It'd be
It
good
should
down to get it free. If everything could be done in a free way, so that
that's
the
right.
science could be advanced,
Yeah.
because we're learning more and more all the
That's
time.
right. And we are one human family.
One
You know,
human
we-
ecological family.
That's right.
Do you
And
like
we're
the
Earthlings? We're Earthlings.
Absolutely.
You know, I thought the picture of us from outer space.
Big
to
blue
see
ball,
the
yeah.
Big blue
Wasn't it
ball.
something?
There
Yeah.
are no boundaries, no divisions,
No.
no ethnic considerations.
No.
We are Earthlings.
Uh-huh.
I think it was Harlow Shapley, an astronomer, who said, if Mars would declare war on us, we'd realize that we were Earthlings.
But we don't have any evidence, do we? I think Carl
No.
Sagan, SETI, all that. Until now, we don't have any evidence. All probability is almost certain that there has been life evolved elsewhere.
Yes.
But as far as we know, with any kind of certainty, we don't have any clear notion that this life process or evolution began anywhere else. There's no
No, we're
record
made
of
of
it.
space dust.
Pardon?
We're made out of space dust.
We're
Well, that is part
stardust.
of-
We're
we're
stardust.
stardust, yeah.
Yes.
And do y'all like the idea of Gaia, John Lovelock, or Lovelock idea that Earth is seen as a
We're going
kind
to go
of-
back to the stars when we die.
Well, that's a question. You mean you're talking individually or as a planet, or what are you saying? When we die, we're going
Collectively,
back to Earth.
we all go back into the
We
collective.
don't know where we go when we die.
Well, we do, actually.
No, you think we do? I would say it's up for grabs. We don't know, but what makes you think we know where we go after? That's one big issue that's
Yeah,
confronted
this is-
We go back
mankind,
into
and
the
I don't think
universal
that
energy.
issue. I don't think that issue
Maybe
confronts
energy,
most
yeah.
of the creatures of the
Yeah.
evolutionary process.
All of our constituent components goes back into the universe.
Well, that's different than saying we go
back to
back in
Earth,
any sense
maybe.
of identity or anything like that. Or do you have a sense, the religions, many of them had either some sort of reincarnation notion or some sort of answering of the fact that we do and are destined, every one of us, to die. And the question of what happens afterwards has
Well, the
given
Egyptians
birth to
said death is
religions.
like a cool breeze on a sailboat.
Well, people say that. That's a poetry thing, yeah. But she's a
I've got an
humanist,
idea.
I know.
Yeah, I'm a humanist chaplain. And I have an idea that human beings created a Heavenly Father out of our need to have a connection. But we are of the universe. That's the irony of it.
Well, wait a minute. That's
Can
a
you
big
imagine?
difference.
But
Yeah.
wait, just picture in our developing days, in the childhood of humankind,
Yeah.
we had no written word.
Yeah.
No, we had only lore, verbal, that comes down.
But I think
we had body language.
we
That's
did.
true. But wait a minute.
Okay.
Just imagine, I have this picture of, there's a campfire, so we had fire by that time. And
Well, we
children
got
were dancing
fire, yeah.
around, and the elders are there, the whole tribe, and they're shooting stars. And this is such a wonderful.
I was doing that last night.
You were.
There you go. Yeah. All right.
And the kids are saying in whatever language they have, what? And the elders of the tribe are supposed to supply the answers.
Right.
They're the wise ones who've been here longer.
Yeah, the
And
shaman.
I imagine that the elders of the tribe said, we are of the stars.
Well, yes, but if I
But
may, I
then-
think if we place Homo sapien within the broader evolutionary context, we're just yesterday, 200,000 years.
A little sneak.
And I don't
of being-
think there were, we can project, but I don't think there were creatures like Australopithecine 4 million years ago. would
Actually,
not
we're
be
eternal.
Well, that's another. Now, wait, if I may.
eternal beings.
The universe is synergetic. That is, it is in time and space. It is an evolving process, and it's a series of interconnected resonances through time. So if we were 4 million years ago, life began 3.8 billion years ago when first evolution began, and then there's organic evolution.
Yeah,
and
we're just late.
Life never ends. It never begins.
well, you make, if I may, Ronald, I appreciate what you said. You said a whole lot of things that a preacher man could say, something that's saying with definity. I don't think there's practically anything we can say with definity. The universe is synergetic through time. So there are understandings. 3 million, 4 million, 7 million years ago, we could not contemplate as we are now our position. And I don't think other creatures are able to have a self-reflective consciousness and reading of the universe that looks for purpose and that sort of
That was
thing.
the
They're still
development,
alive,
unique
though.
to us.
That doesn't make
development
them
of the
dead.
forebrain that gave us this power.
Yeah, but it was
to
an
examine our own
evolutionary
thoughts.
process.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. And so we may be I'm personally.
I think we're experimental.
Well, it may be. Fuller said that, but it may be. And we did a program with Isaac Asimov way back. This is after 10,000 generations, 200,000 years out of Africa, this is the defining generation. And that this is going to bring us into a situation, and there's evidence for why that is the case. This is it. You could have lived in the 6th century, and it has to do with the fact that we have ability uniquely to extend our consciousness into the environment through tools and technology. It
also-
is not characteristic
we
of
I don't know if
other
that's
have a-
actually new, though.
Yeah.
That's never been done before.
I
But
beg
we
your
have the
pardon?
ability
I think that's
now.
been done before. though.
Where? In what dimension? I mean, birds make nests, beavers make dams. They do in verdure, and the universe and the ecology is there. But the creatures, we can build a home, not just find a cave
We
for
have the
shelter.
power
we
right
can
now.
change the environmental context through our extended consciousness. That's
We
unique
have
to
the-
humanity, I would submit.
Well,
We have
thousands of
the
years ago, we
power
were doing that too.
Well,
right
thousands
now
of years we've been
to
here. We got.
destroy the earth.
We didn't know in the old days when they were sitting in the Cro-Magnon cave how long were we here. We now know. We can do it with scientific clarity. Always there's a little uncertainty, Heisenberg and everything. But we know now it's 200,000 years. We didn't know that. We didn't know how the brain worked 20 years ago. We didn't know there were such things as neurotransmitters. We had all kinds of notions that people had to get some idea of what's it all about. in ignorance that has been given to us.
I think we've forgotten a lot of things that we just really try to remember now.
I'm trying to get at, you think there's some eternal principles that you were talking about the Aboriginal people in touch with nature and all that sort of thing, and that's a lovely thought and everything, but I don't know that we were wandering in the wilderness for 120,000 years before. We
weren't killing ourselves, though.
We might well have been. We don't know. The thing is, we should be less arrogant in anything that says absolutely like a God. Okay, you got to have something, so you have a God, and then you make a creation story, and that's it. Or you got Turtle Island, and you got these stories that are done in order to deal with trying to answer the question. We're now able to understand these things intelligently.
Well, a lot of different civilizations have risen and fallen under their own weight.
Of course, they all have, haven't they? Rome finally fell after 1,000 years. And the civilization that's headed up in this civilization started about 8,000, 10,000 years ago with agriculture. 4 different places in the world. So we know that. And now we've come to the point where that extended consciousness, as we sit and talk on December 23, of 2010, where the leading edge of that technological extension is weaponry. It always has been by political.
That's what I was trying to point out.
Political leaders. They want to gain weaponry so they have advantage in terms of a conflict with another tribe. The one tribe has a Gatling gun rather than a rifle, so they can go and conquer. And they can enslave, and they can rape, and they can pillage, they can castrate, they can enslave, they can do whatever there is because they win militarily, and in terms of realpolitik, they can do that, and then they can advance their notion or their tribe so you better have good weapons if you're going to be able to protect your own, much less extend your power and become, an empire such as that. That's the history of the world. It continues.
They shoot themselves in the head,
continues in war making and real crazy crackpot realism in the name of what we've come out of. Now those weapon systems and this is a question that ought to be made available to everybody, they're now, as recently as the Second World War was not the case. We were protected in our impotence, in our birth canal position in terms of the evolution of events. We were protected in our impotence, but now the weapons have, since about 1970, the model shows, have become species lethal. If they're unleashed, as they have been, it is the total end of every single Homo sapien on this planet.
We're not protected from our own ignorance.
Do you think that's true? We've crossed a monumental divide in the evolutionary process in our lifetime.
I don't think that's the first time that's happened.
And Isaac Asimov said, this is the defining generation, 1950 to 2050. We're in this point of crucial transformation that is getting us into an understanding back into evolutionary terms, where you've got steady state, you're in a steady state, maybe for millions of years, a steady state, and then there's a quickening like a birth canal. A quickening, the water breaks, and again, a thing of pregnancy and so on, and then the new, punctuated equilibrium, the new appears. 99.9% of all species have gone extinct. And so we're at a point now where we have the ability to go extinct at our own hands. Have never been able to do that in the past. So this is a period of qualitative transformation. And one would ask her, that the modeling shows that. People would say, well, it's okay because we've got all the weapons. The bad guys, we got to make sure the bad guys don't, because we're good, and we're going to impose our thing on the world. Let's say the United States and the Western model from the Enlightenment. We've got a pattern good for all the world, and we get an arrogance of power. We'll go conquer the black people in Africa. We'll turn them into us. We got this view like Rome did or something. And they're projecting the same thing that's been part of the nightmare of history. What do we watch out for?
You're going to drink your own poison water. That's going to be it.
Well, perhaps so. You think we're going to pollute the environment. Is that what you're saying?
That's what happened to Rome, yeah.
Well, Rome had held for 1,000 years, and then for 1,000 years you had kings. And they had all the ownership, they had all the assets, they owned everything, they lived in a big house on the hill, everybody else was wallowing around in the mud.
And the water had lead in it. And
well, okay, now we pollute the environment, but we also, is there anything on the positive side that's equally existentially significant to the evolving of events on this third planet in this solar system that is equally significant on the living side?
Well, you got to get spiritual evolution.
Spiritual evolution is something that
I'll jump into that one.
You do. Yes. Jump in spiritual.
I will. Yeah, thanks. Let us have a chance to talk.
Sorry, just trying to set the context.
This is supposed to be interviews.
No, it's not. It's a conversation. It's different than an interview. Go ahead.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you. Well,
Whale.
there is a difference between spirituality and religion, and the dimensions of our own spirituality that's part of our brain, equipment, our human equipment, spirituality, what makes you goose-pimply, and what thrills you with music or a baby's first cry, or there are so many things that you have an emotional attachment to. And I think this is our spirituality, seeking to be one with the universe. And this what leaves us very vulnerable to those who come with authority and say, this is the way it was, this is the way where we came from.
Yeah.
And this, because we are part of the primates who are curious. We want to know. This is a driving force.
That's what we
with
began
human
talking
beings.
about
Yeah,
with him when he was here
A driving
earlier.
force. We want to know. And always this kind of seeking makes us very, very open to answers. Children, when they're toddlers, emulate the parents. They copy and take the parents' word for it that this is so. So they're very, very open, And the idea of religion, this is more codified, regimented, because there's a vested interest in control
Exactly
and
right.
comforting. That's one thing the humanists
Power.
lack. And power. That's it. Builds into power. And humanists can't comfort the bereaved and say, your loved one is with the angels. Your loved one is someplace there.
Yeah.
Because we have this feeling that we are very mortal, and we have to do whatever we can do in our lifetimes while we
You
have
mean
a
humanists
chance.
feel that way?
Yeah,
in a sense of justice within this context.
My idea of a humanist is not against religion. We embrace the comfort of religion that gives people inspiration.
It has to be the spiritual part of religion.
That's the spiritual part of us. We are spiritual beings. And to reject and say, we are material, and because this is where inspiration comes from.
Is a crocodile spiritual? Is a kangaroo? Is a mouse? Is a gnat? Are they spiritual?
I don't believe.
Or is it just us?
I think that you have to have the intellectual capacity as well to reflect on the world around you.
No.
But all of humanity in the Gaia sense is one system. One system, so we're all part of that.
They're not consciously spiritual.
Okay, it's different.
They don't have consciousness.
Yeah, okay, there's a difference of that. And the spirit, why do you feel tingly in that? We now know it's because of certain neurotransmitter ratios and uptake in the brain.
But
that's what is a state of mind. That's what it
you.
is. It can be seen.
But it's not purely physiological. Something out there excites us and touches our heart and gives us emotional response. And I think maybe other primates have these feelings, but I think maybe human beings being articulate.
It comes to a high point in the human consciousness.
I think so too. I think
we all agree.
We
on
can
something.
back off
Wow.
a little bit on that and say, is there any purpose to evolution? We can go back to.
We can make our own purpose.
Well,
if people in despair saying, "What's the sense of being good? Where is morality?" If it's born of religion, then we are not
moral. The purpose
moral
of evolution
people.
is to become more conscious. That's the only.
Okay, the purpose of evolution. Yeah, but in
It makes us responsible.
Well,
if there's no
you can feel
reason,
more in it if you're more evolved.
If there's not a plan for us,
You can
we have to
understand more if
make
you're
our
more
own
involved.
plan.
Well, there's
This
a
is what's
difference
important.
between the two. If you have a plan, then all you have to do is discover it. Some spiritual people
Take
have discovered it. And that's
responsibility.
called spiritual fundamentalism.
Some people are crocodiles masquerading as spiritual.
Well, okay, but we know that everything's thermodynamic, and we're in a system.
Let's talk about practical things.
Or if you want, economics you'll get to.
Economics,
that's what it's all
that's
about.
where I want to get to.
It's all about economics.
You talked about the agrarian society. As soon as these nomads that traveled the world and were always seeking, a better place, began to grow, and this gave the idea of land ownership. And I think this is where we began to get into trouble. The tribal people knew that Earth belonged to everyone. We're only borrowing it. We're only lucky to be here. to have the benefits of
We're
Mother
gifted.
Earth. It's a gift. It is a gift. But once you say, this is mine and you can't have any, you know, this is where the problem is. And we are in a terrible, terrible economic and...
We're in a spiritual quandary.
Well, that's
Not
true,
really
too.
spiritual, but just materialistic. When you've got weapons...
But you got...
There's enough material to go around.
It's all converging. And
Thank you. Teilhard de Chardin was a
Okay.
great mind.
All
The
right.
omega point. We may be
Okay.
approaching that. Yeah. That's
But-
the point I was trying to
All
get
right,
at.
But let me talk about our present problem in the United States, and
Okay.
it's reverberating
And the
around
world.
the world.
And the
I'll
world.
tell you
Okay,
it
yeah.
is. Because we have been acting on this idea of freedom. This is what we ballyhoo, the whole idea of freedom. Well, listen, my freedom to swing my
Enslave
arm, my freedom
kill.
to swing my arm stops short of your nose. And society has an obligation to protect your nose from greed and exploitation.
But they haven't done very well.
They haven't done very well.
No.
I'm free. I'm free to eat out of a garbage can if I'm hungry enough.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm free to go without health care.
You're also
I'm
free to go out and
without
conquer somebody and
education.
kill them and shoot them and
No,
rape
you're
them
not free to
and
do that.
pillage them.
You're
You
not
are
free to
free.
do that. You're not free to do
This is what
Realpolitik
US is claiming.
would say
US
that.
is claiming-
It's the winner. You're free to win the heavyweight championship of the world, to
but
be
you-
number one, to
but
be a winner
you-
rather than a
That's
loser.
the breakdown of
Yes.
spirituality.
I think so.
Well, that's the
U.S. is
spirituality.
purporting to
That's
be...
the breakdown of spirituality.
Yeah, but
US
that's the reality. That's
US is purporting
realpolitik.
That's the
to be-
The only
reality.
thing that matters is the firepower. Who's got the advantage? Who can win? Who's got
US
the ability to conquer the other, not be conquered? That's what the world is about. Whether it's a marketing campaign for cornflakes or Wheaties or whatever, that's what the world's about.
United
Be a winner.
States
Don't be a
believes-
loser.
They hope
Because
they
if you're a
can kill
loser, you're
them.
enslaved.
But we believe that we are exceptional.
That's what
that
we're up
we
against
are
now.
exempt from the laws of human decency. We can send drones to kill people
Yeah.
that are asserted enemies.
Yeah.
This is immoral, illegal. I was in Rome at the founding of the International Criminal Court.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
yeah.
this was a great privilege. I got to hear all the arguments for setting up the International Criminal Court.
Yeah.
And U.S. was there arguing that all referrals must come through the Security Council. This is horrendous. The Security Council doesn't counsel with others, and there's no security offered there.
Outside of that,
what
it's
they,
great, yeah,
that-
yeah. Yeah.
But that's what they were demanding.
Yeah.
Also, they wanted capital punishment. And there is an ethical principle that you don't do to someone what you're accusing them of having done.
Well,
That's why there's a flaw in the idea of capital punishment.
Right,
To
and-
kill people because they killed somebody. My 7-year-old son said, "Mom, that doesn't sound right. If they kill the killers, then aren't those that kill the killers
out
bad
of the
too?"
mouths of babes, huh?
Yeah, right. And I say, "Hey, you're right, son."
Yeah.
But so this whole point, we were there, and Ambassador Sheffer came back and reported to Jesse Helms in the Foreign Relations Committee that we cannot sign this document, although all the other nations did. There were several exceptions.
Yeah.
But he said, we cannot sign this because it interferes with our obligations to protect our neighbors and our military obligations, and we will be accused then of war crimes.
Yeah, well, you understand.
Now,
that-
wait a minute.
Okay,
Wait a
go
minute.
ahead.
Let me
Yeah.
finish.
Okay, yeah.
This only means that we felt that we were obliged to commit war crimes. So therefore, we must protect ourselves from this accusation by not signing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what
Protect
kind of a-
ourselves.
yeah. What
Yeah,
kind
because
of
we
a-
could be. One thing you know is all history is written by the winners.
That's
The winners
it.
write the history and they build up
That's it.
the things that you believe.
That's
And the
it.
winners never go in the dock. You
Yeah.
notice? They never go
Yeah.
in the dock. They commit war crimes.
Yeah.
Eisenhower was a war criminal. They firebombed Dresden.
That's it.
Civilian citizens.
Civilian
We were
citizens.
war crimes in Vietnam when we dropped napalm on little babies. But we were the winner. We had enough power, so we stand above it.
Yeah.
We're above the law, the power that bees. Rome was above the law. They're above the law, so that thing doesn't hold unless something changed.
And now we have
has
Obama,
changed.
yeah.
Now, well, now we've got
All
a
right.
Mr. Obama that's different now. But
All
I
right.
wonder if we could...
I'd like to talk about Obama.
Well, all right, but let me get one thing and then grounding. So we got to a large picture. We got back to 120,000. Within evolution, we could go to the universe and everything. So you got a thing to build a pattern for spaceship Earth, an operating manual. Comprehensive, not in one terms of some specialized geopolitical take on the human condition. 120,000 years or 200,000 years of humanity. We've crossed a monumental line in our lifetime. On one side of that equation, we now, and this is something that should be made widely available to everybody, and is still there since about 1970, the weapon systems that we viewed with wild abandon, imagine Hitler with atomic bombs or something like that, are now species lethal. That's something that could be verified by modeling, and that is the case, particularly binary backed, something existentially new. What would be existentially new and significant on the living side, or on the positive side, equally existentially significant to the fact that we can destroy our species? What would be, no, wait a minute, what would be equal? I know that, I see that, that's a small matter.
It's not a small matter.
No, but I'm asking you for something. You're trying to get at a comprehensive, not a small little geopolitical reading of who's political is right and everything. What would be equally existentially significant in the universe on that side of the killing that would be equally significant? My contention, it was a contention of Bucky Fuller, that we had at the point about the same time that the weapons became species lethal, humanity, in conjunction with the environment and all of humanity with trends and technology and everything, we had at about 1970 transcended at the level of material reality, material scarcity. There is enough and more for everybody for the first time in human history, which makes possible a different kind of world than the world based upon fighting for scarcity that has been a characteristic of those species as a contention. That's a big pattern.
We've always had enough.
Do you think that's possible? No, we have not had enough. We've never had enough. There was never enough until about 1970, because it's not just food. It's not just food. It's also understanding and knowledge and knowing and all these things. We've got to a point where there's a qualitative transformation, existentially significant.
We got to wake up. We haven't woken up.
Yeah, but wait a minute. It's at the level of capability. It's not the level of everyday reality that we see in the news. And talk about salt treaties and stuff. That's news. That's just normal, seeing everything in the normal pattern. What's different about this time on the living side, my contention is, and it's the contention of a few, never mentioned, never thought of, because we're talking about START treaties and things like this in the normal pattern, that we have transcended material scarcity. Boom.
But there's
we have enough. No, henceforth, there's enough for all. Nobody has to win for others to lose, including the ecology. A fundamental break has happened, and it is never mentioned, because we're so arguing about the details of all the institutions formulated within a context that's been qualitatively transformed.
Some people are never going to have enough, though.
Well, wait a minute. You say that you want to say that the poor will always be with us? All these things out of history, which are part of a context, has been qualitatively changed.
Let us get into it.
Well, I mean, but get to a comprehensive level, rather than arguing about the details of history-bound thinking. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Let this gentleman have his say.
Okay, yeah. Do you think it's possible? You don't think it's possible for there to be enough so that everybody can have a good life and everything without taking from anybody else, without polluting the environment? There never was until about 1970.
Not under
the modeling showed there wasn't ever.
Not under the capitalist system.
Okay, you argue with the premise then. Do you argue with the premise that weapons finally became species lethal? That they would kill every single... You would argue with that. You think that's not the case?
We agree.
There's always been a great deal of fear and greed.
No, always, yeah. And they also say humanity is inherently greedy. They always say you can't have any good world because humanity is inherently greedy, and they're going to steal everything, because they always have. And the leaders always have been stealing and plundering, and that's how they got to be leaders. But the thing is to accept that. It's easier to accept, maybe, and why people don't mention it, I don't know. It's so maddening. Nobody will talk about things in a big way. They'll just argue all the little subpoints of history that's been transformed, we've got to awaken from. Do you think it's possible that the weapons are now, if they're unleashed, species lethal? We have a capability to wipe out, at our own hands, the entire Homo sapiens species if they're unleashed. Do you think that's a true fact?
The Earth has always been a paradise, but psychological Sickness has been the problem.
You're back into the normal way of thinking. Why? Okay.
Harold,
Develop. Talk about something.
I think we are agreeing. We're agreeing.
I don't hear you. Do you think we can destroy the entire species with your understanding of science?
Yes.
We couldn't do it until. Do you agree that we couldn't do it until about 1970? This year, when we were at this time when we were alive.
The Limelighters that were singing.
We could have did it in 1945.
We could not. We were impotent. We were trying. Don't you understand? We were trying to kill each other as hard as we could with deep-seated hatred. We firebombed Dresden, civilians. We firebombed Tokyo, killed women and children. We killed people in Vietnam. Don't you understand? We did that. We were impotent at the level of species. We were impotent. Big Boy was only a small thing compared to what happened by about 1970. They became to where the war thing that we've been doing still forms the basis of power, realpolitik, who's got the gun wins and conquers and all the rest of it, is still informing geopolitical thinking and everything. You can't seem to get that in your head. That we couldn't do it in the Second World War. Our lifetime, I was alive. We were alive. We couldn't do it. There's been a transformation.
How many people do we have in the world today?
About 7 billion, heading for 10.
How many people were there back then?
I don't know, been about 4 billion, maybe something like that. I guess you can. It's all there in the record. You can do it, and you can trace the modeling that shows that has got to that point. Robert Lifton sees it. Other people see it. Why it isn't 25 feet high letters that were going around Times Square, we can destroy the whole Homo sapiens species. It should be part of the consciousness signaling an existential new reality and universe. And then what you want to get to, the averse side, we also, at the same time the modeling shows, transcended material scarcity.
You know what I think? I think they could have wiped out the whole species then, but they...
When?
1945.
You think they could have?
Sure, but they didn't have the...
They didn't have the weapons. That's what I'm saying. They did not have weapons of that capability. That projection of power and the geopolitical thing that served Rome and served the kings and served the imperialists and everything like that was impotent at that level, the species level. That's exactly the point.
They could have done it.
They didn't. They were trying. They were trying to kill the enemy as hard as they could.
They didn't have the
Firebomb
excuse
Tokyo.
to do it. They didn't have the excuse
people.
to do it.
No, they had hatred, deep
now
hatred.
They have a much better excuse.
No, what they have now is extended consciousness that is just.
Well, why would they want to do that?
Why would they want to do that? Because they're still reifying outdated institutions and notions of geopolitics and what you can do within
Which have been around
society.
since when?
Since we've been around 200,000 years.
Well, they could have did it then. They could have killed the whole world. They didn't have the excuse to do it.
Oh, okay. I can't seem to get it across.
No, they couldn't justify it. Now
we're all enthralled
they're coming to a point where
history.
they can justify killing billions of people. They can justify it now in their own minds.
Yeah.
And they're coming to that point.
Well, okay.
And they want to do that. And they want to
get on to something else.
Okay, if you want to get into some small... Well, why don't we talk about the START Treaty? I'm glad they got it passed, and also they're going to help the supporters of 9/11, and they also got, don't tell in the military. They got some things through a lame duck Congress. We got a Congress coming in, Republican to the core, and everything. You want to talk about those things like in the news? Okay, let's talk about the news rather than what's really relevant. That's okay.
No, what's really relevant?
Comprehensive. We've got an ability to see things in comprehensive terms, and it doesn't seem to. Have you ever heard anybody say there is enough? There is enough for all.
I've heard people say that.
No, but there has never been until 1970 in a combination with the capability. That's the point. We live in a time of quality that nobody pays any attention to. No, but let the lady talk. She's frustrated beyond belief.
Oh,
and you want to talk about the START Treaty?
Let me ask
I was
one question.
worried. Oh, okay, let me just say this. I sometimes carry a cork with me because I'm very wordy, and I have a little joke.
Okay. You want me to get
I wish I brought it for you. If we're going to have a conversation, you have to let us have a chance to respond.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, how new is mass starvation? Is that something new, or has that always been? Mass starvation is something new. That's
but
the
let's
part
talk
of the
about
modern
the
world.
START Treaty. He did get that through. I'm glad they got it through just yesterday. That's a good sign.
You asked at one time, but then you went on to answer us and didn't answer it and didn't give us a chance. There is something Yeah, well,
Go ahead.
hey, this is, you talk about reality?
Yeah, realpolitik.
All right,
Yeah.
we're trying to get our words in, and thank goodness for public access.
Absolutely,
Because,
absolutely.
and here we are, we might as well be in corporate media. We don't get to have a say. And thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
I hope that we get to say something.
Okay.
There is something very, very new, and people who have felt disenfranchised
Right.
for most of their lives and felt there's no point in voting.
Yeah.
You know. Now we have the internet. Obama came to inspire us. Young people, minorities, people who had never voted before, all got on this high. Yes, we can. We can make changes. We can make changes. He inspired us.
Yeah, right.
And the irony of a black
2008,
man
yeah.
in
He wasn't sincere about it, though.
Well,
I don't agree.
they're falling
I don't
away.
agree.
They're falling away in droves.
That's the big problem.
Yeah,
Just picture this. We're on the Titanic. Our trajectory is set. We are headed for disaster so many ways. And this man gets airlifted onto the bridge. Okay, Mr. President, Mr.
Yeah.
Now, turn around the ship of state.
Yeah.
That is so unreasonable.
Right,
And
right.
he is compromising, believing that this is the way to
No,
do
I
it.
agree with you. I
This
think
man
that,
would
yeah.
not be alive today, I regret, I fear to say, if he had gone in like gangbusters and said, all right, now we're going to set things straight.
Yeah,
he would have
he's pragmatic. He's pragmatic. Yeah.
And he's trying to bring those that caused the problem to try to rectify the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, try to straighten out, to try to work on solutions.
Yeah, I agree with you on
It's
that.
not working well yet.
No.
But there's still time.
Well,
All right.
okay,
The
good.
people-
I completely
all right,
agree with that.
We
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
have the people
should
roused
support 'em,
up.
yeah, if
Too
we
many
can.
of us are beguiled by, watching the news, the corporate media, and playing little video games and doing diversionary
Propaganda
things.
media,
Yeah.
Propaganda
But
video games.
we have the tools now that we can talk to people on the other side of the world. Just get on the internet. I watched the FCC hearings yesterday.
yeah.
Oh my God,
Net
that
neutrality,
scared
yeah.
net neutrality.
Yeah.
That scared the pie out of me.
They're going
But
to shut
just-
the internet down.
Well,
no,
we'll see.
we've got a foot in the door,
Yeah.
and it's not going to get slammed on us. We are going to work.
Now, all we have to do, it was all
And
that
Michael
media.
Kopp
Yeah,
is a
right.
hero.
Yeah,
He
I've
spoke
read it
for
all,
the
yeah.
people.
Yeah,
He
I'm-
said this: we cannot allow there to be two tiers. We cannot let corporate power control the information that communities and even Indian tribes, the people have to have access equitably.
And they have to have an economic system that's just.
I think
And
we're
they
ending
will.
our show now.
Well, I think we're going to have to. It's too bad. Absolutely.
I hope it gets
I
edited.
agree with you. No, it's not
Yeah.
going to be edited. I agree with you. Obama is to be supported. He's a pragmatist. He has to do it. They got a new Congress
People
coming
who
in.
were chomping
and
at
everything.
the bit
Yeah.
were wanting instant change because the crimes, the ills
Yeah, I
of
know.
society are
Yeah.
so egregious
Yeah,
and
right,
so unfair.
right.
We wanted the
Okay.
peace people.
I don't know about Obama. He's
Okay,
not
well,
doing
that's the
anything.
thing. That's coming up. Obama and everybody. And the thing is, one problem is you don't have enough time because some people talk too much.
I had a whole bunch of things to
but
say.
anyway, we've run out of time. Most of you came late, also, so you could have gotten your. Yeah, but
I
anyway,
thought we started
your
at 4.
pleasure. Beth Lamont, widow of a great figure. We didn't get a chance to talk about
Even
Corliss
talk about
Lamont. Absolutely.
I wanted to talk
sterling.
about lefties are in their right mind.
Lefties are in their right mind. She
Yeah,
got a book. We
that's
got a
right.
book. I'll
It's
show it
right
even
there.
here. I'll show it right here. We'll hold it up. Try to get
Yes.
it on. And here, Mimi left filling in because she was
I didn't
late.
get to hear
we
you.
had to fill in because she came late, and so we had to get things all out of kilter. But this is
Ronald Thomas.
Ronald Thomas. And he's big talk. He's a great guy here on Manhattan Network.
You get to talk
Happy
next
to
time,
have
Ronald.
you view that program. Thank you for invite you to tune in. We'll come back again tomorrow. That's it for now. All the best of the season. Let's hope that these things that she's talking about and the things that can be done, we can muddle through like the British, and that we're going to be okay without addressing the big issues. I don't think we're going to get there until we do. That's just the difference. There's things that should be brought up outside of the normal news. Thank you for viewing.
Little
Thanks for
things
coming.
mean a lot, though.
Well, little things mean a lot. Yeah, okay. Thank you. It's like quantum mechanics and